All right, good morning, everyone. Let's go. All right, U.S. markets obviously were shut last night on the back of President's Day holiday. We basically are going to kind of look at what happened in Asia overnight to see what we can take as leadership. Obviously, what we did have on Friday, there was the end of last week was a very strong finish, to the U.S. trading sessions, kind of across the board, as you can see there, probably looking to see that, maybe follow through a little bit this morning. In Asia overnight, we saw the Nikkei really have a huge day, up over 3%, really on the back of the BOJ deciding to leave their monetary policy steady. You saw the the yen weaken about 0.75%, and that really got things going there. Otherwise, in the Asian region, things were mostly mixed. We saw Australia up a touch, the Kospi up a touch, Hang Seng, which is actually just at the exact moment is down a touch, and then we saw Shanghai that was down about 0.75%. So, the Nikkei was the outlier and really I think driven on news and not following up on the back of anything. So the rest of the markets, they're mixed, maybe not as positive as everything else. If you look at this morning, we had Billiton's that was out, kind of following on the back of, we had Rio, then we had Anglos, now we had Billiton's. Billiton's also beating for the most part. Headline earnings per share better by 5 cents. The revenue number was more or less in line, maybe a small miss, and the divvy per share, I think, was a small miss versus the consensus expectation on Bloomberg, but the share really traded up nicely in Australia. And they said that the jump in profit was due to improvements in its iron ore, coal, and petroleum businesses. What I think was also really interesting is that there was a lot of talk on the iron ore side, and talk about they're expecting iron ore growth of the next 5 years in China to be at its weakest, I think averaging about 3% over the next 5 years. And they also talked about they're expecting up to 90 million tons a year surplus excuse me, on the iron ore market, global iron ore market, starting next year, starting at the end of this year, actually. So the surplus obviously going to drive prices down. They're one of the more bearish, saying that prices could fall below 100. And anyway, I think all of that is very interesting. Could have a huge impact on some of our local shares, not just Anglos, but Kumba, Essor, maybe Xaro, African ARIs, so there's a few. Anyway, also today in U.S. earnings, we've got Duke Energy, Medtronic, and Coca-Cola. Nothing that's probably going to drive the market too much. And then we've got Goldfields, which was cut to equal weight versus neutral at Morgan Stanley this morning as well. All right, market data front today, we had the Japanese machine tool orders were slightly better than prior numbers. We've got CPI, retail price index, and PPI numbers out of the UK. We've got the ZEW survey at 12 o'clock in Germany. Then we've got the ZEW survey expectations in Europe, and then later in the States we've got Empire Manufacturing. We've got revisions to consumer price index. We've got the net long-term TLC flows and the total net TLC flows. Right, let's get into the maps. All right, the first thing I was going to have a look at is Essor. We were talking about iron ore prices and these things. It's interesting, some of the negative commentary. I think it's been around for such a long time, it's having very little effect. You can see there that Essor has broken out, and has broken out laterally as well to new highs. So very important here. I think there's a big upside target to come in Essor. On the back of that, I mean, I don't even want to throw a number on that target, but I mean, it could be as high as maybe $600 for Essor. Right, Kumba, following on the back of the iron ore story and Assor and that whole story. If we can just shorten this up just a touch, we can look at Kumba in its recent trading range, which has been incredibly tight. I'm taking that little blip out there because that's not where it closed. We're going to run from the closes and really just look at this trading range, which is about 435 to 460. I mean, that's a really tight band. Considering. And yesterday we did trade to 460, couldn't punch through. As of this morning, we kind of will probably be testing that again sometime this morning. But if we get above 460 and can close above 460, then I think this thing is going to trade up closer to 485, 490 Rand. All right, the next one we'll have a look at Goldfields. Goldfields obviously was cut this morning. I'm looking. That's the New York share price. So we're going to look at the local. All right, Goldfields. What we're going to have a look at here is just really kind of looking for, where this thing, where these bounces are going to stop. I mean, if you look at Goldfields or all of the gold miners, the bounces have been enormous. I mean, the bottom of Goldfields here is about 31 Rand. We're at $45, so it's bounced 50%. However many, I guess that's only about a month and a half that we've bounced about 50% in Goldfields. We had a long discussion yesterday, kind of in-house, and someone said it's not time to start buying the pullbacks. I'd just like to have a look at this chart on the 2-year, and does that chart look bearish or bullish to you guys? I think it's pretty straightforward. I think we should be selling the bounces personally. Now this level here around 48 to me is reasonably well defined. It also lines up perfectly with the 200-day moving average. I'm hoping that it gets up there so that maybe I can start fading it myself. But anyway, yes, I do think that these things are to be sold on the bounces. Not to say that it's time to sell just yet, though. So just be careful out there with if you're trying to fade these things at the moment. All right, next one we'll look at is MMI. MMI, let's just zoom forward and have a look at this most recent part. You can see here the 24 level, very significant, and we're fighting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days basically in a row. We've been battling trying to get above 24 in MMI and really kind of flagging up toward that price. If we don't get above 24 soon, then we'll probably see a pullback. But if we can get above 24, then I would expect this thing to really be able to run. Some of the others in the sector have really been trading well, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that one follow up. Okay, next one we'll talk about is Discovery. Obviously, we know that we've looked at this chart so many times, this head and shoulder chart, and we talked about the 78 level, where you can see there yesterday's green bar took us above the 78 level. What we're going to look at now is really the ability for this thing to be able to potentially break above the shoulder line, and we're right there at resistance basically. So as you can see, let's zoom it in on that line a little bit. You can see how close we are there. Pretty much right at $80, I would peg that. If we can get above 80 in Discovery, then I think this thing could really be off to the races. Same sort of thing. The sector has been trading really well, so just keep that in mind. Wouldn't be surprised to see it break above 80 and take off. All right, and then the last one that we're going to have a look at is Mondi. Mondi, we talked about this chart's been very bullish for a long time, but we broke out nicely there 2 days ago. You can see as of yesterday's session, we kind of couldn't really pop up to the upside. I just think this is a good level to watch. It's very clearly defined in my mind, right here around 183. If we can pop up above, or if we can hold this 183 for next session or two, then I think we really got some upside here, possibly as much as $20. So just keep an eye on those Mondi. And that's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot.